you about some federal changes to legislation you'd like to see. Would you talk a little bit about what you're looking for and how that might impact voters here?
Well, number one, MVRA, the 90-day blackout period, really causes us issues. It causes all 50 states issue. We can't update our voter rolls 90 days before an election. And the challenge that we have in America is that we have such dynamic mobility. 11% they say moves every year. We have 7.5 million people. That 90-day represents a potential 200,000 people moving in and out of the state or in and out of the county. And so it's really tough to keep up with it. And then during a presidential year, you go from race to election to election to election, including the runoffs. So for that whole year, we can't clean up the voter rolls. And so it really creates an issue. I think that we need to have a constitutional amendment that only American citizens vote in our elections. Because already we're seeing on the left side of the aisle a push to allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. That's the first foray. Once you start having non-citizens vote in local elections, then they end up on a voter roll. Well, then how do you really separate out, is this a voter roll for local election or a state election? And it just really creates issues. So I believe it should be a constitutional amendment. Only American citizens are voting our elections.
I know there was some proposal to do something similar at the state level here. As far as I understand, nowhere in Georgia are non-citizens voting. Is that correct?
Well, actually, we have found one or two, but also when we register voters to the Department of Driver Services, we actually identified about 1,600 non-citizens who attempted to register. So then we've done a deep dive investigation on that, and that's an ongoing investigation. Why did they attempt to register? But we did catch those through the Department of Driver Services.
But as a matter of policy, there's no local governments that
Are elections safe and secure in the state of Georgia right now?
Absolutely. I think what we've shown is that we have a verifiable paper ballot, so we can do a recount of any single election. And so we'll actually audit any race now. And what we've asked in the General Assembly is we'd actually like to have more requirements for additional audits, because unless it's actually in state law, you can't tell counties what to do because of the home rule. And so we do believe that the audit process is really good to give people confidence in the results.
Talk about the runoffs. I mean, a lot of people want to get rid of it. Why did the legislature dodge it this time?
Well, I think the General Assembly is very busy in their 40-day session. They'll have more time to think about it. We just came out of the 2022 cycle with a runoff. I think when you just roll into the session, it didn't give them enough time to really review all the options. So I would encourage them to have a study committee of that, and so that they can really look at what are the different options that we have, what are some of the other states doing, and so that when you have a large majority of all Georgians, both sides of the aisle, it has bipartisan support to eliminate runoffs. The question is, what's the best method going forward for Georgians?
Is it time to get rid of them?
Well, that's what the majority of all Georgians say, and that's what almost every single county election director says too. They are apolitical people, but they're the ones that have to run the elections for their counties. And it's just very cumbersome now because we do audits, because we have to do all the other different processes to clean up and audit it and get it ready for certification. It just ties them up.
Secretary, just quickly on that runoff statistic, where are you looking to see that most Georgians want to eliminate runoffs?
It's about, the AJC did a poll. I believe it was about 58% of all Georgians wanted to eliminate runoffs.
Thank you. And do you have any sense of why that didn't move forward in the session?
No, I know that they're busy, and I think really sometimes you need time coming into session, and everyone was in election year last year, and so I think that's really a lot of what it was. It's that you really want to make sure it's thoughtful, it's measure twice, cut once, make sure you get it right.
Thank you, Secretary.
If you had to pinpoint, what is a threat that you see to the elections process in the state?
Well, the biggest concern that really all secretaries of state have is really cyber. There's all these outside and even internal threat vectors that come from all over the place. Hey, this is the home of the cyber center, not just of Georgia, but for our entire country. So you understand all the threats that you have. So really, cyber is one of the things that keeps you up at night, because you always have to look and make sure that you have robust defenses against anything. And sometimes it could, come in from one of the counties, and then somehow it gets around. So it's really having really strong defenses everywhere.
You did very well in your re-election campaign. I mean, any comment on your plans for the next office you might see possibly go?
Well, right now we're really busy because we're in session, and that keeps us very busy. We want to work on some licensing reform also, but we're just really grateful for my fellow Georgians. I was channeling Luke Bryan when I said most people are good and Georgians are wonderful.
We're moving into that presidential election time again. How do you assure people that we're going to be okay as far as people voting, your votes are
Well,
safe?
we know that the process works, and so we know that we'll have a presidential primary here, and the results will be the results that they'll be, and we'll report them. That's our job. We're just like the ump, balls and strikes.